Not
Hey,
good.
everybody, we're live. It's Thursday. It's Trucker's Delight, and we are now at the end reviewing season Ouroboros or Ouroboros, depending on how you want to pronounce it, the final two episodes of season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy. I'm your host here, Keith F. Sheldon. Joining me, as always, is William Wofford. We're going to be talking Prodigy. We're going to be talking the end of season 2, and we're going to, of course, Trek news later on. Leave your comments below what you thought of this season because we'd love to hear them. But for now, William, roll that beautiful bean footage.
Boop.
Every other vote.
And you gotta admit, the dude that was coming down the aisle, he was kind of cute. I'd have carried him on my shoulder.
Here we are. Welcome once again to Trucker's Delight.
Like, literally, my mic falls down just as we go live. Hi, everybody.
Who you gonna be?
The captain of the Enterprise Z.
Love that baseball and the teacup. Like, clearly, TNG DS9 fans. So.
Man, that we see power rates at some point in this season.
What is going on?
The power rates has shit to do with the power rates.
No, everybody, this is actually one of the main screenwriters for Prodigy, so we are super excited to hear from you. And
No one
also,
listen.
I'm a little embarrassed for being as critical.
Man, I really love that intro.
This was a nice touch.
One day I will get over that, but not today.
Oh God, that never gets old.
See, yeah, Marie couldn't stick around to be on, but and of course I stole her line. I fully acknowledge that that's Marie's line about the beans, but yeah, I'm never going to get used to the yeah. All right, so Ouroboros. I never actually looked up how you're actually supposed to pronounce it.
Well,
Episodes 19 and 20, the two-part series, season finale, hopefully season finale of Star Trek Prodigy. Will, you've watched it the most. I've only had a chance to watch each episode once. You're going to bring us the recap to close out season 2 of Prodigy.
All right. So basically, and I'm gonna talk about it because I forgot where it goes between. But actually, no, I do know. So basically, what happens is it's a two-parter, and it's the season finale. But I like to think of it as just one big final episode of season 2, but hopefully not the final episode of Prodigy. So that's what we're gonna hope for. But the first time that I heard the name Ouroboros or something like that, I heard it when I was watching Loki on Disney Plus. So that's the first time I heard it. It was one of the technicians that wrote the book for the TVA. But so this is what happens. Asencia gets into a sword fight or one of those weird sword things with Gwen, and I mean, of course, they're handing it to each other, but ultimately Asencia loses. Why? Because long story short, basically everyone has put their, for lack of a better phrase, good juju in Gwen. Like, we believe in you. The power of friendship will work. And they just give it like what we really hope we can accomplish as humanity. They did it because they were born with it. Like, they put empath to another level. They just did it. Like, gave her all the Energizer Bunny they could. And then this weaponry, which acts like a Thor's hammer, by the way, it only goes to the one who is worthy. And well, she was worthy that day. And then it was so, I ain't gonna lie, I laughed so hard when Asencia's light blew out. It just literally went out.
Well, she pretty much like put all of her power into it and just, blew a fuse.
Like, how do you biologically blow a fuse? I feel like that this is the race that the biomedic jails came from. Like, you just blow a
Yeah.
fuse biologically.
Well,
Well,
that's kind of what a heart attack or a stroke or cardiac arrest,
that's
all
true.
those
That's
are
true.
sort of
Yeah, that's
a
valid.
stroke or a brain attack, as I might call it.
So in this particular episode, now of course, now that Gwen wins, which is great, that doesn't really excuse the part that they need to somehow get the protostar back to Taj Lamore. And I hope I pronounced that right. Back to the certain point in time and space. But how do they do that? They traveled through every other wormhole to get to every other place except for the one place that they needed to be. They even saw alternative timelines that if they chose different wormholes, it would have meant their death, or they would have went to an entirely different place. A bunch of shit. Okay. Well, this is where, and I love a techno track conversation on this, because I feel like for the first time they're actually breaking down the science behind time travel. You know, like, or the theoretical science behind time travel anyway. Like, and how they just threw everything together and they actually have like a legitimate conversation rather than leave it all to science fiction. Like, they've actually threw some thought in it, kind of like how they thought, just like how the Interstellar was kind of thought through, like and I really appreciated that. So they said, well, if we, and basically what Wesley said was, since we went through every other wormhole, that means there's one more left. Now that's where the science fiction part comes in, because I'm just like, bro, like, really, that you thought that? And they said, computer, run these blah, and lo and behold, there you go. The one in the middle is the one they need to go through.
Well,
Great.
they kinda combined them all together so that it's like a series of Venn diagrams with the very center being the one they need.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So that's happening, and now, and I'm kind of inching my way into part 2.
Okay.
Well, they get past Asencia's people. They power up the machine. They shoot the thing. Almost, it was pretty similar to Avengers, like the first film. It was pretty similar to that. One of the plugs wasn't working. Dog gets up there, hooks the thing together. He seems like he's falling to his death, but we all know that ain't gonna happen. So he's just falling for no reason. Murph catches him after mopping the floor with Megatron earlier. Like, and I forgot the guy's name. What's the mechanical being that Murph went up against?
Dreadnought.
I don't think. Yeah, I'm gonna say I didn't know if he had a name or not, or it had a name at the time. I don't know. It's like the pre-version of the one that we saw in season 1. So they power up the machine. It shoots into the sky, goes into space, opens the wormhole. Well, as soon as they open the wormhole, we get the Loom. They are here. And Wesley's like, oh my God, I didn't know they were going to be here this soon. You thought that a giant hole in time and space wasn't going to attract them.
Yeah.
You really are Will Wheaton right now, aren't you?
Wow.
Okay. And so now we're into part 2, which part 2 is essentially all about getting the ship from one end to the other and the aftermath therein. So they devise a plan, and they use a component which I'm still going to give like all the Easter eggs to Keith, but they use temporal shielding as a means to defend itself against the Loom that's coming, which I think is very interesting, because you're not supposed to remember anything from Year of Hell, but somehow they thought it through. So I guess this is the alternate timeline that we want.
Well, no, they had temporal shielding before Year of Hell. That's why
They did?
it was the Year of Hell.
Really? I thought they developed it during Year of Hell.
No, it was something they gotten from fighting the Borg and species 847-2.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Delta Quadrant influence. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
All right, cool. So they get through, they match the variance phaser wise to shoot their way through, and then they have enough temporal shielding that it goes down to as low as 89%, the last number that I heard Gwen say. And Voyager A is shooting its way through while the Protostar is shooting as well, but like they're making their way through, and they get into the said wormhole. No turning back now. Once more into the breach, Janeway says, which I thought was super dramatic, by the way.
And of course, they've now converted the Protostar to look like it did when the crew found them. But then the tough thing is then Janeway. What are you going to do? Hologram Janeway has to reset and forget the last 10 years of living with Chakotay.
Yeah, forget everything. And so that's where the EMH, our EMH, by the way, our EMH downloads a copy of her program into a backup module, which they will later use by the end of this episode. So they get through. Now they're inside the wormhole, and Janeway says there's no turning back now. Now this is the scene that I watched over and over and over again. It was really nice. And I'm sorry if I missed anything. Well, all of a sudden they lose navigation because they're pretty much running out of power. They're using every bit of juice they got to keep those things from entering inside the ship based on what happened last time. Well, we can thank Kirk and the boys for saving the whales, because this Moby Dick.
Well, that's on Voyager.
That's on Voyager.
Right. Well, that's Jillian on Voyager. It starts navigating Voyager. Yes.
Right. I'm guessing through echolocation with some technology, and navigates their way through, and they make it through to the other side, and Dal leaves the comm badge, the same comm badge that we find.
Rock leaves the
comm badge. Oh, okay. I thought it was Dal.
Wait, no, it is Dal leaving the comm. That's right. Rock's the one who found it originally.
Yeah, the one who finds it. Right. So now the circle is complete, and you see echoes of the Protostar heading to its destination, meaning everything is now being set to where it needs to be. Then you see a very nice collage of the events of season 1 and season 2, which was yes, thank you. A montage of season 1 and season 2. I thought it was very, very nice. And it's I ain't gonna lie, I cried on that part too. I was like, okay, I probably would have edited it differently, but I cried. I was like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. They made it through and they're growing up. Oh my god. And then we saw a hint that which I'm kind of glad that they didn't really dive into it, because this show is not really about them. They show a hint of Janeway and Chakotay in one shot. And I like that, because the show's not about them. I don't mind an update, but this is called Prodigy, not Voyager Part 2. Okay. So it gets there, they come back, the loom goes away, Starfleet makes official first contact with what's their species called? What's Gwen's species called? Valnakat, yes. And I think I didn't miss anything. Okay, yeah. And so now we're going through Jamie's logs, and she wants to put in for early retirement, which understandably, I'm surprised you didn't retire earlier. Well, go ahead.
And then therefore Chakotay becomes captain of the Voyager A.
That's
with
right.
Isis as his first officer, and everyone there, and with the kids going back to the academy.
Yeah, so you think everything is all well that ends well? Not really. I mean, well, as far as the timeline goes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But as far as Starfleet goes, the Federation as a whole, they're kind of screwed, because now this is like setting up for the is it called the prologue when you're setting up for the events before?
Yeah. Well, it ends. I mean, it's getting to the end, and it's first contact day, and you're thinking, "Oh, nice first contact day." Hopefully, it's not. Oh shit, it is. It's season 1 of Picard.
It's season 1 of Picard, and pretty much the events that led to season 1 of we can call it season 1 of Picard. So even though there's a 20-year gap, we now know where this 20-year mark begins. Because Mars is now attacked by our own synths.
Yep.
we already know what happens in Picard. We've seen it. We suffered through it. But which please don't tell anyone I said suffered through it because I love Picard. But okay. But how does this affect our crew? Well, you would think that it's just like, okay, maybe we do have to scale back operations. No, they shut down Starfleet Academy.
Well, no, it's not that they shut down the academy. They shut down exploration.
Because I thought but I remember there was a scene that Rock Talk was reading saying classes are suspended until further notice
Because of the attack that just happened.
Because of the attack, right?
Yeah.
Which, okay, so I'm thinking, oh my god, did Starfleet Academy shut down for the time being? Like,
well, yeah, in the immediate aftermath of the attack, yes.
Right. So, well, this leads to Chakotay going to get Janeway from early retirement because all officers that they could be called had to come back. Jane was like, "Oh my god, what happened?" Chakotay tells her everything, and that's when we get these uniforms, and we learn that the combat that we know this in season 1 of Picard, but the damage that was done is greater than even I expected. Like, because they really tied together why we were wearing these uniforms. Because I remember I hated these uniforms in season 1 of Picard. I'm like, why are we back in Generations? Like, what is this? Like, we're supposed to be in the Sovereign class era. Like, what's going on? Well, they had a shortage of combat just in different material. They lost 20,000 ships and God knows how many lives. Like, they pretty much damn near had their own 9/11. Like, and it was just, and then they had a whole xenomorph thing against Sense going on, and it was bad. It was bad. And what's it called when you're like racist against aliens? Xenophobic. That's what I meant to say. So they had this whole thing going on. It was terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And that explains why we see the comm badge from the Generations to the movie that shall not be named era.
It started in that's Voyager's comm badge.
Oh, so that is Voyager's comm badge. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
But yeah, the uniform that we saw in the flashbacks of season 1 of Picard. Yeah.
Yes, we see Jellicoe is here, and we learned that Jellicoe was a part of that conversation with Picard. That did not end well because it ended with Picard's resignation. We now know, and when you put it all together. So what Janeway ends up doing is revealing, saying, well, hey, I'm going to call in a few favors because we got to get this crew out into the stars. So now leads to the USS Prodigy, which is what the show is named. Star Trek Prodigy, which kind of like lines. Go ahead, Keith.
A Protostar class ship. The only Protostar class ship.
The only Protostar class ship. And the kids are on board. They're in uniform.
New uniforms. Another different uniform.
Oh, yes. Very different. And Dal says, you know what? I still want to be command, but I think that this ship belongs to you, Captain. And he hands command over to Gwen. And she's like, oh my God, are you serious? He's like, yeah, to take it, and does. And
which was teased in the Devourer of All Things Part 2 when he saw the glimpse of the future. That scene of him handing off the compound.
Exactly. Yep. And so yeah. Oh, and of course, our command hologram Janeway is on board, safe and whole, not in part, which is great. And now they are, from what I interpreted, the only Federation ship that is set for exploration, whereas others are called back.
Yeah, because the Protostar was built for exploration purposes only, and if they're not exploring anymore, and apparently was the only class of ship that's built for exploration alone.
Right. So. Which I kind of like that it's kind of built, that it is built for exploration alone, because it reminds you of like the Defiant being built solely to go up against the Borg, you know? Right. So how do we feel about this, Keith?
I have to say, I mean, I had read like the beginnings of reviews and not try to avoid spoilers where I could. And basically, I've been hearing from you, Will, and from Jason, from others about how good the season is once it's over. And I was waiting for those moments that would really make it stick with me. And as much as I enjoyed the episodes we've gone through the past few weeks, I wasn't feeling that about how good it was until I got to this two-parter. Suddenly, I felt like, okay, this whole picture, and of course, it's not just them now getting their own ship, the Prodigy, Chakotay going off on the Voyager A. It's also it's Wesley coming home to see his mom and meeting his brother Jack, his half brother Jack. And of course, we don't see the baby; we just hear the baby cry.
Mhm.
So there's your connections to Picard season 3. So it does a fantastic job of cutting right into the beginning of Picard season 1. So we now have it's like 2385, and we know that Picard is 2499, 2501 is when it wraps up. So it's great that we are filling in the gaps there so that you now have a fully cohesive story carrying you basically from the first shots of Encounter at Farpoint in Next Generation through to the end of season 3 of Picard. Because you got Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Picard.
That's right.
And
That's right.
it's so nice to have. You're talking about 2363 to 2502. So you're talking almost 40 years of Star Trek history available to us, which is incredible to think about.
It's like a lot of like they really did a good job in combining old 90s and new track all in this. They
Mhm.
they thought this through.
Yes. Yeah, basically what Star Trek has been able to do with these series for for all the people that want to mock new Trek, you cannot say, I mean, although there have been places where it seemed like they weren't working in concert together, as in like the end of Prodigy season 1, Lower Decks season 4, Picard season 1, or Picard season 3, when all the things about automation. But you look at what they did with this show and how it wrapped up, and it definitely seems like there was a plan, and that thought was put into how everything ties together. And you think of a certain other star-based franchise and how it's just jumping all over the place and things don't match up right, and it's not quite, they've kind of fumbled it because of the lack of a plan. This really feels like that there was a plan and they have followed it through beautifully.
Right. Right. So it was the moment. Well, what scene specifically did it help you reconsider like, okay, this is it?
Well, yeah, I'm having I'm what's our biggest knock on Voyager? Well, there are several knocks I have on Voyager, but the end of Voyager, the fact that it ends with them exiting the Borg transwarp conduit and being greeted by the Federation ships,
Oh my
and
god,
then
I
that's
forgot
it.
about
The
that.
last shot is them flying to Earth.
That's
We
it.
don't we do see them flying down to Earth, but that's in the prologue in the future, looking back at when the what is now changed because Janeway came back in time. And we don't get that homecoming at the end of Voyager. And we get that with Prodigy season 2, we get that coda at the end where you feel like everything is going to be good, and then it's not. But it's okay because our crew is going to keep going. Our crew is going to keep exploring. They have their special dispensation. This group that fits so well together are now all acting ensigns. They got, spiffy new uniforms. They're all getting to do their thing, learn together. And the maturity of them coming together. It's just so. I just. I mean, Will, you're about 10 years younger than I am.
Mhm.
And Jason, we're here. He's 10 years older than I am. So we could all share. We have lived through over our lifetimes a series of major historical events, things that people would have called once in a lifetime. And we get, okay, what's our better once in a lifetime event this year? Like, we see in Star Trek having one of those once in a lifetime events with the synth attack on uh, First Contact Day. And we see how they respond to it. And we've lived through 9/11. We've lived through Iraq War. We've lived through, and I've personally, for me, living through January 6th, just how these horrible things happen, and then we build off of it. And we make changes. We go on living. And of course, the pandemic, all of this stuff. And so we're getting to see the Prodigy crew basically do as we are and just adapting and going on living and finding a way.
You're about to make me cry.
Sorry.
Because it's like it's beautiful that they press forward. And I think it's like with the new Trek that we've gotten, yeah, it's like kind of what you said. Everything seems to be good, but then it's not. But we press forward.
Mhm.
We press forward. And now we know it puts a deeper meaning on these are the voyages, not the season finale of Enterprise, but like the mission. What
Right.
is the mission? Like, and I'm interested to see like how they're probably going to open it with some childish thing in season 3, like with,
Yeah.
but it's going to be that though. It's going to be that mission though.
I would absolutely love it if well, first of all, we want season 3.
We want it.
We want we don't need season 3, but we want season 3.
What? Because it could. I don't want it to, but it could end here.
Yes.
It
We don't
could.
end with a cliffhanger. Season 1 ended with a cliffhanger because Gwen was going off to Solom. The others were going off to the academy. Their story was not complete. The story we've been watching is sort of complete, but there's still more story to tell. We know that. Just as there was more story after All Good Things, there was more story after What We Leave Behind. There's more story after Endgame. There's more story after Generations, First Contact, and those 2 other movies that we don't like to talk about. There's more story after Turnabout Intruder, and more story after Undiscovered Country. Like we have an ending, but it's not. It's like, and the human adventure continues, as it said at the end of
Motion picture. Right?
Motion picture. And I would love it if we get season 3 and it starts with a small change to the opening credits of Gwen saying "Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the USS Prodigy." That would just be beautiful.
Because now you're bringing it all back home, like,
Mhm.
and I feel like in many different ways, and hopefully we will do this with Legacy. In fact, I'm going to say we will do this with Legacy. You're passing the torch, you're passing the baton to this next generation, basically, like, because it's like we kind of saw in Picard and Discovery and Lower Deck, I won't say Lower Decks, maybe a hint of it in Lower Decks, forms of the previous generation passing on to the next.
Oh, we
And
definitely see it in Lower Decks.
okay, so we
Literally.
do see it in Lower Decks. Okay,
Captain
so
Freeman to her daughter. It's
oh,
literally right there.
in that sense, right, yeah. And now we get to actually see a crew go and fly with, which we see the same thing, sort of at the end of Picard when we see the Titan, now the Enterprise G, fly off, to fly around Pluto and come back. But I think they were going for I think they were testing something or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shakedown cruise, yes.
Shakedown, right. So it was everything about it was beautiful. Of course, it was great. It was great. I don't know what to expect for season 3, but I'm excited. And that would be what you said would be a beautiful opening, Keith.
Yeah. And even if you just do it for the first episode, have a prelude, have an intro of her saying that, and just the establishment that this is Gwen's show and not Dow's show. And that will show the true maturity of Dow, that he realized it's not his show. He's not the main character in this story.
Right.
And it's not to say that Gwen is the main character either. It's that it is an ensemble, a true ensemble, which 90s Trek tried to really push. And it wasn't Patrick Stewart's show. It wasn't Avery Brooks' show. It wasn't Kate Mulgrew's show.
Right.
Those 3 shows were about the ensemble entirely. Whereas TOS, it was William Shatner's show. And to a smaller degree, Leonard Nimoy's show.
I think in Discovery they kind of did the same thing.
Well, Discovery, no, they went to it is the Michael Burnham show, but that was by design. It was
that was on purpose. Okay.
Yes, we fought. Who is the only person in every single episode of Discovery?
Michael.
Because remember, the first 2 episodes, we don't meet Tilly until episode 3.
That's right.
So Rue is gone for half of season 5. Detmer, we have several episodes without Detmer, but then of course she was a reoccurring. She was not a regular cast member. And when you look at who the regular cast members are at the end, none of them had been in a lot of the episodes. Like the last season, your major cast members were Burnham, their Book, Tilly, Stamets, Stamets' husband, Nelson Cruz, Colbert, yes, and then Blue Dabari, them. What's their the Trill human? I'm blanking on their name.
Oh, help me. Lord have mercy.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Them.
They are officially the main cast at the end. Now we had main cast. We had Lorca and season 1. Season 2, you had Pike and Spock and Tyler from half of season 1. You had a lot of people that left the show at the end of season 2 by design, and you had people join the show in season 3 by design. But the one constant across every single episode of Discovery is Burnham. And yes, it was the Michael Burnham show, but and for the people that complain about it, that was the point.
That was the point. That was the point.
Yeah. Just like, who is the one cast member that's in every single episode of Picard?
Jean-Luc.
Picard. Yes.
Yeah. Every time.
Every time.
Every single time. Like, even for flashback moments, you don't really see him. I mean, he's there in that episode, even when you don't see him.
Yeah. On Lower Decks, every single episode, we get the 4. It's an ensemble cast. You get Boimler, Mariner, Tendi, and Rutherford every episode. Prodigy, you get this entire crew every episode. Now, technically, the first episode of season 2, we didn't have Gwen. And she showed up at the very end.
Right.
And they talked about her, but she wasn't really there.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you feel like will be the dynamic of Academy? Will it be another ensemble, or will it be like a trio type deal? Now that we know,
I don't know. It looks like it's building to be a ensemble, because you've got your 4 students and you've got your 5 or 6 professors, and that there's a villain. That's odd that it's a college show and there's a villain.
Yeah, I'm going like, what kind of villain is this? Is this supposed to
Now,
be like
if
a
he's going to be like, take a page from Harry Potter and have an evil professor, that's good. Do that. Have Paul Giamatti be an evil professor. I mean, we've
great?
seen the holdovers. We saw
Y-
him be a bad guy in things such like Private Parts, the Howard Stern movie,
Mm.
and what was it? The Boss. There was one Frankie Muniz movie where he was a bad guy. And we've seen him play those type of parts. So he's an incredible actor. But yeah, who's the bad guy in a show set at a school? It's you thought it was Snape and Harry Potter, but no, it was Quirrell, and it was all these other professors over the years. Like,
yeah.
if he's one of the professors and he's just a bad guy in that he's just, he's not threatening the galaxy. We don't need the Academy crew to be saving the galaxy.
Right.
So,
I mean, because it's kind of like we already had enough of that.
yeah,
Like,
Disco went too far into that. That was the number one knock against Disco, was
kept
that they're
saving the
always
galaxy.
saving the galaxy.
Even when even in the last season when you thought they were, they
Yeah,
are. I'm like, oh my god, here we go.
yeah, yeah. They were talked about. It's not going to be a galactic threat. It's going to be instead this chase. Like, no, it's a galactic threat. I just can't. You just can't stay away from it, huh?
Just can't. Just can't. Oh my gosh. So yeah, what are the? Go ahead, Keith.
Well, I'm gonna say next week we'll get into a full deep dive on season 2. Hopefully, we'll have Marie will have watched the final 2 episodes, and Jason will be here as well. And who knows, maybe we can get Jermaine or some other people on to talk.
Jermaine, come back to us.
Yeah, Jermaine, come back.
Oh, congratulations, Jermaine, on making a assistant principal of instruction at your
Oh,
school. I recently got that text a few days ago.
and Manny as well.
That's right. That's right. Manny was yeah. So then
Manny's the assistant principal at his school in Abu Dhabi as well. Yeah.
okay. So we got Commodores now.
Yes. Yeah, we got people on the rise.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully that portends well for some others of us. I mean,
Hey, hey, well, whatever you gotta do. Like, I'm very happy for them. And I'm glad that everyone seemed to have a great birthday for our Virgo Trekkers to Light peeps.
mhm.
Yeah. So what Easter eggs did we see in Ouroboros?
Let me. I'm just trying to go through and what I can remember. Like I said, I only watched the episode once.
Right, because I
Uh,
remember because I didn't even think about Voyager coming through a transwarp conduit like that. So I didn't even think about that. I was like, oh, that's a
the way
moment.
Endgame ended, yeah. I mean, we
Mhm.
saw when they get called. Of course, we get the call back to beginning of Picard season 1 with the attack on Mars, the synth attack. We get to see they had the floating things like we saw in that short treks that was the precursor to Picard
Mhm.
about the attack. We get the uniform that Janeway and Jellicoe wear at the end is the uniform that we saw Picard and Rafi wearing in the flashbacks from season 1.
Mhm.
Uh, let's see, as it's pointed out in continuity on Memory Alpha, they reference 2382 being 2 years ago, and 2436 is or 2346 is 52 years. Oh, 2436 is 52 years from now. So that would suggest it at 2384. While Touch of Grey, the previous episode, made it seem like it was 2371. That was 2385.
Hmm.
Uh, of course, we have hologram Janeway saved by the backup unit, which was the same thing we saw in for the Doctor's backup in Living Witness, the episode of Voyager,
Mhm.
where we see it from in the future when the EMH is powered up at a history display about Warship Voyager and all that. Uh, let's see what else we had. predestination paradoxes. Of course, we had the wonderful montage flashback of all of season 1.
Which I think the last time
We
remember.
did have a 47 reference. It was 47 millichiron. Wait, what is that?
Is that where the 47s reference came from in Voyager?
No, the 47s was something that started during TNG. Some of the writers on TNG it was a shared joke between them. Yeah, 47 millicochrons was the reference we had in this. But 47, as it goes, all right, it came to Joe Manosky, who had worked on Next Generation and then Voyager, who attended Pomona College in California. And there's a club at Pomona called the 47 Society, which claims that there exists a mathematical proof that all numbers are equal to 47, and that the number 47 occurs with greater frequency in nature than other numbers. 74 makes frequent reappearances as well, as does 23, half of 47 rounded down. Maybe that's where they got the idea for the Jim Carrey movie, the number 23.
I see.
But starting in 4th season of TNG, anytime they had to give numbers, 47 somehow figured into it. Okay. And Ronald D. Moore loved it so much that he carried it over to Deep Space Nine, and then Manosky went to Voyager, so 47 continued there. And in loving memory of that, the writing crew on Prodigy kept it alive. They even included it in J.J. Abrams' movie. So, and then let's see. I'm looking at Memory Alpha for the reminder of things. I'm just Ouroboros Part 2. Of course, Ouroboros is the name of the symbol of a time loop, which is a snake eating its own tail. There was a show that came out in the late 90s on Fox that was a supernatural crime solving show called Millennium, starring Lance Henrik. And the symbol for that was the Ouroboros. And then it became like one of the season finales of Red Dwarf on BBC was a callback to the time loop of Ouroboros with that symbol. And of course, these two-parter, by the way, was written by the Hageman brothers with friend of the show, Aaron Walke. So well done, the three of them.
Well done.
Let's see. They had the great moment where you had Dr. Aaron McDonald teaching, it's time that you forget about Temporal Mechanics 101. Welcome to Temporal Mechanics 201.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. Those clean.
Yeah. So yeah, we got Jack Crusher first introduced in Next Generation. We got Children of Mars. Admiral John Picard did not take the news, the cancellation. So we saw that in the flashback in the episode. The end is the beginning. Janeway mentioned an old friend in her log that was a reference to Picard and Data from a deleted scene of her with them in Star Trek, the movie we don't talk about.
Oh, that's right. We don't talk about that.
Yeah. Walke later noting it was such a beautiful scene, and I was like, it's too bad that's not canon. So he worked in that little reference there. Of course, we have the emergency command hologram, which was something that the EMH came up with in Voyager. Was that Tinker Tailor's Dr. Spy? And so we get that becoming a thing now. Field commissions, of course, the Humpback Whale, Gillian, the Protostar class. Hold it, the page refreshed. Oh, come on. Let me just look.
Computer, activate the photonic cannon.
The reserve activation clause, which was what was used to get was used in motion picture to get McCoy out of retirement.
I remember he wasn't too thrilled with that.
Yeah. The seldom known about and little used reserve activation clause. And well, in short, they drafted me.
Oh, I love Bones. I love him.
Yeah. And of course, they changed it to where now the ship, instead of having a single pretty awesome captain's chair, I must say the Protostar captain's chair is the nicest captain's chair that we've seen.
Because
Because
it's like
there's
it's clear that it's two.
it's so much more comfortable. And notice there how Dao is not sitting centered. He's sitting leaning towards Gwen.
And
And
whereas she's sitting centered, he still loves her.
yeah, well now that she's safe and they're free, that they can now, we saw that at the end of last season that they were finally together in a way,
In
and
a
so now
way.
they can be together. So I love that Murph is in uniform too, by the way.
Is it just me, or does Dahl look taller than Gwen when Gwen is the taller one?
No, look at his feet where hers are versus his.
Oh, his feet are not touching the floor.
Yeah, Gwen is definitely taller.
Okay.
He's right. He's rocking the Pike hair though.
I think because I was going to say I don't really remember that particular hair. I mean, I remember his hair, but I don't remember it being so Pike-like.
Yeah,
Oh, so that could be interpreted as a thing.
that's a reference. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and of course they're heading off, and it just calls back to so many. Let's see what's out there. Back to the end of going back to TNG, and just the idea of them going off to continue this mission
Right.
when everyone else has to be more insular. And yeah, that's what I have for Easter eggs. Sorry, I didn't. I needed to watch it one more time to pick up on any more, but
No, that's fine. Because it also kind of reminded me of season 3. It was either season 3 or 4. And I'm gonna say this one of Discovery when they finally got their new uniforms, and we only
the
saw
end of
it.
three.
Yeah, and we saw Let's Fly for the first time,
Mhm.
and then they just went off and then warped away. Like, okay, yeah, we love the famous warp away scenes. We love those. We love warp away scenes when there is a glimmer of hope, which is what Star Trek is all about. Like when times are tough, when we're in the face of adversity, there is always hope, which they pretty much say in the montage. Like, which I think the last time I saw a montage, if you count it as a montage, was Deep Space Nine. At the end.
Yes. Yeah, that wonderful montage of everybody's story on Deep Space Nine and saying goodbye, and yeah.
Because I don't remember.
Voyager didn't have one. They should have, but they didn't. TNG didn't. It ended, but it didn't have an ending.
Yeah, I think they tried to cover it with All Good Things with the 3 time periods type thing.
Right. Well, All Good Things was such an exceptionally well done episode, but yeah, it was an ending of the story as we've seen it. But the fact is, they kept on going, and because their story. I mean, while they were writing, they wrote that episode and they were writing the movie at the same time. So it was going right. They knew their story was going to continue in just a few months with a bigger budget.
Was there not a montage for the TOS cast?
Of course not. Never.
Huh. I could have sworn there was, but I think I'm overthinking it. Like,
well, TOS. There was never the final episode of TOS is not well. First of all, it's one of the worst episodes of all of TOS for so many reasons, and it was bad even when it was new. But it's not a season finale. It's not a series finale. It's just an end. It's just an episode that just happens to be the last.
Right.
And just like the final episode of Enterprise, how horrible it was not written to be a season finale or a series finale.
Yeah, they got canceled and they had to.
Yeah, they kind of slapped a little bit extra on it to make it a series finale, but it was supposed to be an episode that was just going to be part of season 5.
Also, real quick, thank you for, even though this was a year ago, thank you for explaining to me how it was UPN and how everything happened back then and why so many shows were canceled at the time. Because it just reminded me, I don't know if you know of a show called Moesha, black teenage girl played by Brandy.
Yeah.
had the same level of shitty ending that was not worthy of being an end, and they left it on the worst cliffhanger possible. Like,
Oh.
and then I learned so many other shows ended the same way because the whole thing was canned.
Well, television is full of that over the years. You have shows that you thought were doing well and end on cliffhangers or just end in very poor ways. Like, I mean, I've just been watching there's a reviewer I watch on YouTube who I watch the stuff as her name's Jackie. I first started watching her when she was reviewing Ted Lasso in its final season. Well, with what was then considered the final season. Now we know there's going to be another, even though it's been 2 years since that show ended. But I watched her review Band of Brothers. But she just finished watching Firefly.
I remember Firefly.
And she's just like watching the final episode of Firefly and Objects in Space. And she's like, how do you cancel a show this good? How is this the final episode of a show like this? I mean, there is so much potential. It was so well done. And yeah.
Well, because it's like they it's like dropping a business plan. Like, you feel like you don't have your investment, and then you drop the whole thing. Lucifer got canceled 3 times.
Yep.
3. I was like,
technically, TOS got canceled at the end of season 2.
what?
And yeah, TOS got canceled at the end of season 2 too. It was John and Joe Trimble getting people to write letters to NBC that got them to bring it back for a 3rd season.
So they just kept trying to cancel TOS over and over and over again. Like, it wasn't enough that Lucille Ball brought it back. Like,
well, no, Lucille Ball is okay. So Star
Yeah.
Trek originally, nobody wanted to do it. Everyone saw this as like, nah, I don't see this happening. No one likes sci-fi. Everyone likes westerns nowadays. No one likes sci-fi. And so like CBS was like, oh, we're interested in sci-fi, but I think this other show, Lost in Space, has a much better, was much better than that. But yeah, so they tried it. It didn't work with the Cage, but Lucille Ball was willing to pay for a second pilot, and then it worked. And then she sold Desilu during season 2 to Paramount.
Oh.
And at the time, Paramount was owned by Gulf and Western. So you had a production company owned by an oil company.
Holy shit.
Yes. So they took over towards the end of season 2, and NBC wanted to cancel it. And hold on, I'm trying to remember what was the final episode of season 2. But yeah, so they were going to cancel it, and then finally they said, okay, we'll bring it back for season 3, but Gene can't be that involved. We're moving it to Friday nights, which at 8:00, which is a death time slot back then. Nobody was watching TV on Friday nights.
Yeah, you're out partying and stuff.
Yeah. And also we're going to cut your budget way, way back, which is very noticeable in the fact, like in one episode where they're being attacked by an invisible ship, or they have an episode dealing with the Romulans, but well, the only Romulan ship you ever saw was that secret Romulan bird of prey, and you can't see it. Oh, that's right, Assignment Earth. Final episode of season 2 was Assignment Earth. Roddenberry was so expecting that the show was getting canceled that the final episode of season 2 was an attempted bait for a spinoff. Remember, they went back in time to 1968, and you had Gary Seven and Roberta Lincoln, that whole thing. It was he expected to get canceled, so he was trying to use the final episode to launch another series.
Right.
But yeah, so they ended up coming back for season 3. Freddie Freiberger was put in charge, and he cut the budget back a whole lot.
Mm.
So you had one episode where the bad guy, the villain, wasn't even an actor. It was a guy who was an entertainment lawyer who they hired, and what they did was they put him in a shower curtain and had him like in a colored image. It was "And the Children Shall Lead." Like, it was, how cheap could you possibly be? And so we got a lot of poor design, like the empath, where you didn't have a set; it was just a black sound stage with little items here and there. Like, so many things cut back. So yeah, John and Joe Trimble made sure we got season 3. They cut it back a lot, but then it just ended. Then we get the animated series, which they put the person in charge of it didn't quite understand what Star Trek was, so like everything ended up being pink, which was weird. It was the same music over and over again. They were trying to recycle the animation as much as possible, a very common thing of the 70s. But it ended with the counterclock incident, which actually had a bit of finality to it because it was the retirement of Commodore April.
Mm.
Then of course we got the movies. The Next Gen 7 seasons seemed like a good run. No one expected it to go 7 because TOS had gone 3 and TA had gone 2. And so then because TNG went 7, well, that meant Deep Space Nine was going 7, which meant Voyager was going 7. And then
now they're
Enterprise, everyone's like, oh, well, Enterprise is going to go 7, and they canceled it at 4. And they had a planned season 5. And then we thought, okay, well, Disco is going to go 7. No, they canceled it at 5.
And now we're fighting tooth and nail for Lower Decks and Prodigy.
Yep, to keep them going. And it's bad enough that we were trying to fight for more seasons when we're fighting for more episodes per season. Prodigy at least has given us 20 episodes a season. Now, you can argue that season 1 of Prodigy was essentially 2 seasons because the first 10 episodes is them trying to outrun the Diviner, and the second half is them on the run from Janeway. Because remember, Admiral Janeway didn't show up until the end of the 10th episode of season 1.
Yeah, and that could be interpreted as a second season.
Yeah. But season 2 here that we just finished, the 20 episodes, they are one season. They're the Devourer of All Worlds is the halfway point, but that is not a season finale. It very much continues going. Okay, we're running out of time. I'll do the news list real quick.
Okay.
So let me see. Trek movie. We have the new book by Nana Visitor is now out. Star Trek opening. Oh, shoot, where'd it go? I had it here a minute ago. Too many tabs open. Okay, yes. Star Trek Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek. She she went back and watched every episode of Star Trek and then went and interviewed every woman that had been on Star Trek that was still alive. She was able to talk to Nichelle Nichols before she died.
Oh, wow.
And just do all these interviews with them and tells their stories. Unfortunately, she didn't have a chance to talk to Grace Lee Whitney, but she got a lot of those stories out there. So that book is out, and the first reviews are very positive. So looking forward to catching up with that. Zachary Quinto has a new show.
Yes, he's a doctor, I think.
He's a doctor. So he was doing an interview, and they asked, so what about Star Trek 4? And he basically said, look, it's going to happen one of these days. I expect to be playing Spock into my 60s. And if there's a time gap, there's a time gap. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, so he's open to it.
Yeah. Jonathan Del Arco, who played Hugh on 2 episodes of TNG and a couple episodes of Picard season 1, did an interview, and they asked whether or not there might be future more Star Trek for him. And he said, well, at one point they were talking about a Borg spinoff that would have followed Hugh and the crew of the Renegade Borg from the end of season 6 of TNG, beginning of
That's
season
interesting.
7. And he said basically every idea we had for that became Picard.
Oh, well.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's not happening. I talked last week about the coffee mugs. Okay. Two other things. A Turkish theme park has
Mhm.
announced that they're going to be opening a Star Trek attraction and Star Trek designed hotel rooms in
Ooh.
2025. This is, let's see, specifically a Prodigy themed attraction coming to Land of Legends in Antalya, Turkey. You'll be able to stay in a luxurious Star Trek themed suite during your visit to the park. You'll board the USS Aurora for Star Trek Wild Galaxy. Land of Legends is the largest amusement and water park in Turkey. Land located in Antalya on the Turkish Riviera, the Mediterranean Sea coast. We opened in 2016. It will have a new Nickelodeon land opening on January 15th that will include Bikini Bottom from SpongeBob, Paw Patrol, and Star Trek Wild Galaxy. So specifically a 5D cinema attraction themed around Star Trek Prodigy. That has to bode well there. If they're going to launch a theme park in Turkey, yes, but still based around a show,
It's
you
like
would
they're
think.
having their own Star Trek experience.
I know, but you got to wonder: does that bode well for season 3? If they're going to launch a Prodigy theme park,
Huh.
that's
I hope
something
so.
to consider. Yeah. And then the last two. First of all, Scott Bakula is here in DC right now. I talked about it last week and the week before. He's performing a one-man show at Ford's Theater, Mr. Lincoln. He's
Yes.
incredible.
I saw
Absolutely.
photos.
Yeah. There's now a 30-second trailer that recorded at a couple of the performances that are now available from Ford's Theater on YouTube. I shared it online. It captures the essence of the show, but also a couple of the most arresting images from the show that I'm glad are preserved that way, but showing how he fully embodies Abraham Lincoln's role, which is interesting because he is 69 years old while Abraham Lincoln died when he was 54. Or no, 56, that's right. 1809 to 1865, 56. So yeah, he's 13 years older than Lincoln was when he died, but you got to remember how much Lincoln was aged by the war and having 2 of his children die and just his various medical problems. So he fits the role pretty well. But he was doing an interview for The Guardian, and they asked about how his experience on Star Trek, and he talked about, well, I loved it because I got to know Bill and Patrick and Kate and just become part of this family. He doesn't do the conventions. He doesn't do any of the fan things. And he was already had an incredible sci-fi acumen by having Quantum Leap, which is one of my favorite shows. And he said he stepped into this and it was just an incredible burden to have to carry on this legacy and a challenge, but he enjoyed it so much. And he's open to, if they ever want to do some more. I know he did an episode of the podcast that Trip and Malcolm, the
Shuttlepod. Yeah.
Shuttlepod one, yeah. And recently, which was his first time doing anything like that, and so it's good to see. But yeah, that is hopeful. I would love to see more of Archer. I would love to see President Archer. I would love to see them do something with the Romulan War and all that. But yeah. Oh, and there is the fan film Farragut Forward, just released on October 1st. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I believe it is set in around the time of the motion picture, if I remember correctly.
Right, because it takes place on a ship that looks like the Reliant.
Well, yeah, it's the Farragut.
Yeah.
And the Farragut set was built in Atlanta, and they had been doing fan productions for years, and they upscaled it for this movie. And of course, it's a fan production, which means everybody was doing it for free to not fall within the negatives of CBS, because as we know from the Axonar incident, if you start trying to make money off of these fan productions, CBS comes calling with the lawyers. Season 4 of Lower Decks. If you have not had a chance to watch season 4 of Lower Decks ahead of season 5 coming out on October 24th, and you want to watch it without going ahead and starting a Paramount Plus subscription, you can now watch season 4 for free on YouTube and Pluto TV. So you can get ready for season 5 of Lower Decks by watching the entire season 4 on YouTube and Pluto TV now. And the final thing I have today, which is a bit of unexpected Star Trek news, we have a court case here in Washington, D.C. against the former president, President Donald Trump, concerning his actions on January the 6th. The case was thrown for a loop when the Supreme Court ruled a few months ago that the president has immunity when it comes to official acts. So special counsel Jack Smith had to basically redo his whole approach to restructure his indictment of Trump around unofficial acts. So he impaneled a new grand jury. They indicted him again. And then he had to have his filing of findings and evidence. That filing got turned in last week. And it had been pushed off, and Trump's defense tried to fight that it shouldn't be released now because the election's only so many weeks away. But Trump's people had pushed the thing off already to get it to this point. Well, they released it, and then there was a talk, it's not released to the public until the judge releases it, and it would have to be heavily redacted. Well, they released it yesterday. And it is redacted. A lot of names are removed, even though it's pretty obvious to guess who the names were. And one specific section was highlighted, shared by Michael Chabon, who is the author and the showrunner for season 1 of Picard.
Oh.
It's like, while redacted responded, the defendant, President Trump, placed the call on mute to redacted, mocked and laughed at the first person, called her claims crazy, and made reference to the science fiction series Star Trek when describing her allegations. The filing reads, based on the details given about the redacted name, it appears the person Trump mocked was attorney Sidney Powell, but he apparently was using Star Trek to mock her. Michael Chabon shared this with his own note, keep my show's name out your damn mouth.
Well,
and
damn.
And what's funny about it is then someone else, I can't remember who it was, let me see if I can find it, had the best response to it. Now, we know that President Trump at least knows a little about Star Trek because the operation to get the vaccine was called Operation Warp Speed.
So I know he knows something.
Yes. Let's see, where is it? Okay. Yes, this was from yesterday. All right, so yeah, person named Scott Frank, an anthropologist and science writer, commented, I'm sure it was some mocking of a Trek as nerd stuff, but I'd like to imagine it was a deep dive into the lore. Those allegations are crazier than Garth of Izar. Get the rehabilitation chair. And I'm like, that would be glorious. It was an actual good Trek reference, but yeah.
Right.
But all right, that's it for the news list I have for this week. Will, you got anything else you want to say?
I am looking forward to next week's season 2 review, and I will make it a point to get all of my friends that I know have Netflix accounts to let Prodigy just play through the night.
If you've watched it, watch it again. In fact, watch it now between next week so it's fresh in your mind and you can join us, join the conversation. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Like and share. Put your notes on Facebook, Truckers Delights on Facebook. We're happy to hear from you there. Follow us on Twitch. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us everywhere. Leave your thoughts. We'd love it if you could join the conversation with us. And hopefully we'll have more people here next week so you don't have to hear me talking for most of the past hour like I have.
It's all right. It's all right. I had the first hour, you had the second hour. It's just like this is the night, like I said, what we call it, the night shift crew. This is where we need Harry Kim on this one. Like
seriously, kick Garrett Wang in there. Come on.
Yeah, we need Harry Kim or I think Data does night shift on the Enterprise, I think too.
Until he started dreaming, then Crusher took over.
Okay. Right. That's interesting. Okay. All right. Time to put the saucer section back together, guys. The skeleton crew is about to head in. All right.
Yep.
Y'all have a good one. Wait, Jason, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you being right now? I gotta know.
I'm serious, dude. You got
like 10 out of 10 serious or picking on Michael serious? Which one?
There is no temperature in space. It's not cold.
What are you serious?
Okay, wait.
Who is oh dear God! It just got
because you said his name.
Welcome to the party, Michael.
No, that is not how we're going to end the episode because Keith actually has like a legitimate news update. He knows shit, and we should possibly like convey that knowledge.
That's my favorite line. He knows shit.
It's just like a black and red mound. It's like.
Why are you describing yourself?
What the hell?
Hello from man.
Hey, Virgil.
Hey,
Virgil.
welcome.
Hello, Virgil. Welcome. Who are you?
Who?